Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling. And man, I really appreciate you guys making some time out of your day to hang out with me a little bit and watch the video. Always appreciate that. And guys, today we're going to be talking about something one of the Bassmaster Elite Series pros said on a podcast last week that really exemplifies everything that I've been talking about as far as the dangers of technology moving forward. This is becoming more mainstream amongst some of the high-level tour pros, so we're going to get into that in today's video. Also, guys, just a couple quick things I want to go over here. Just want to invite everybody, anyone interested in becoming a channel member here of Intuitive Angling, you can do that by going on my homepage and clicking on the join button for information. Channel members get extra videos every week that aren't seen by the public and some access to my email address for your fishing questions. And also, please check out the Tackle Warehouse link in there, my Tackle Warehouse link. They got some good sales going on for the summer. I'll put all that stuff in the description of this video, so much appreciated. Okay guys, I don't know if you saw it, but Bassmaster Elite Series Pro Matt Herron was on a podcast last week, and he said something that is very profound I wanted to share with you guys. And first of all, Matt exemplifies what a professional angler is. He's been doing it for decades. He's super successful, won tournaments, qualified for tons of classics and FLW Cups. He's been there, done that, and anytime Matt, says something, I've got a lot of respect for his wisdom on that, especially what he said here. So anyway, on this particular podcast, they were having sort of a debate back and forth between forward-facing sonar or not, and there was an angler on there, a younger angler that was pro forward-facing sonar, and Matt was trying to make the point about what a lot of Elite Series pros and a lot of pros in general have said, that the decades of experience that these pros have had perfecting their art form in every type of diversity of technique out there is worthless now in the age of spotlighting for bass. And Matt made a point to this angler that was pro forward-facing sonar. I guess he was talking about he's played high school or college baseball. And Matt goes, "Let me ask you something." He goes, what was the weak part of your game that kept you from getting into the major leagues? Because obviously, in order to get in the majors, you have to be good at everything or you just can't get into it. And he said, I couldn't hit a curveball very good. Therefore, he didn't make it into the major leagues. And that is the exact same thing what we're talking about with this whole forward-facing sonar deal. It's like you cannot make the major leagues. Let's say, for example, you could hit a fastball out of the park every pitch. And you could do everything like that, but you couldn't hit a curveball. And the pitchers knew that, so they threw you curveballs every time you're at the plate, and you couldn't hit them. So even though you may be skilled in one aspect, you simply couldn't make it to the major leagues because you couldn't hit a curveball. That is the same situation that we are in right now with this whole forward-facing sonar spotlighting. So many of these anglers out there right now, they truly do not deserve to be at the top level of the sport because they cannot hit the curveball. They can hit the fastball out of the park with spotlighting for bass and forward-facing sonar, but when it comes to using a diversity of techniques that really require an art form and time on the water, like knowing how to pitch and flip and throw a chatterbait in the top water and drop shot and shaky head, big glide bait, big swim bait, knowing when and when not to use those techniques, knowing when to stay with them, knowing when to put them down, knowing when to change bait profiles, bait colors, angles, all that type of stuff. They're clueless. They're experts at getting out there and looking at a video game screen and throwing a forward-facing sonar minnow over 100 foot of water and catching them. And they're excelling on the Elite Series circuit, but they can't do anything else like hit that curveball. And if the Bassmaster Elite Series and the MLF Bass Pro Tour are supposed to exemplify the best of the best, then they should have to do this. They should have to be able to do this. They should not be able to excel in a sport just by using, spotlighting for bass. But that's where we find ourselves in. And that's why, guys, I'm telling you right now, and I've talked about this a little bit before, there's this huge illusion out there that the Bassmaster Elite Series and the MLF Bass Pro Tour has the best anglers in the world. They don't, guys. The Bassmaster Elite Series pros and the Bass Pro Tour pros are no better than a AAA bunch of fishermen out there. Let me make a point on this. Now, I will grant you this. There are 2 or 3% of the anglers out there that are simply at the top of the game. They could do well doing anything. You take somebody like Jacob Wheeler. Jacob Wheeler could excel in the sport, even though he's used forward-facing sonar to dominate the sport on the MLF side over the past couple of years. I have no doubt that Jacob Wheeler, if forward-facing sonar was removed like it should be from tournaments, he would still do well. There's a 1% of guys like that out there. But for everybody else, guys, they're no different than a bunch of BFL or Toyota Series anglers. And let me make the point on this. And the reason I want to do this is because I want to break this myth to the public and to the bass fishing industry that the Elite Series pros and the Bass Pro Tours are the best anglers out there. Number one, the Bassmaster Elite Series and the MLF Bass Pro Tour are the easiest circuits in the world to excel in. Okay, you got basically 100 anglers in both tournaments. They pay half the field. They pay 50 places in every tournament, so 50% of the guys get a $10,000 check. Now, reverse it over like to the Toyota Series, events. You may have 220 people in a Toyota Series tournament and they pay 40 places. You may have 250 people in a BFL tournament and they pay 40 places. It is 10 times easier to get paid on the Bassmaster Elite Series circuit and the MLF Bass Pro Tour. You do not have to do as well to get a big fat check versus the other circuits. On top of that, it's easier to qualify for the championships. Guys, there's basically little over 100 people in the Bassmaster Elite Series circuit, and they take nearly 50% of the field to the Bassmaster Classic. The same with the Red Crest on the MLF Bass Pro Tour. They take basically half the field to the Red Crest Championship. If you fish the Toyota Series tournament, you may be up against 225 anglers, and they take the top 25 to the Toyota Series Championship. If you fish the BFL division, you may be fishing against a 250-man field, and they take the top 45 out of 250. So statistically, the Bassmaster Elite Series and the Bass Pro Tour are the easiest circuits to do well in. They're the easiest circuits to excel in. Now, also on top of that, let me give you another reason how there's this illusion out there that they're the best, because they've had to qualify. The qualification criteria for that is not any type of a means to justify and say that they're that great of an anglers. Because first of all, most of the anglers, except for the last couple of years on the Bass Pro Tour, they were handpicked by the MLF management to participate in those tournaments with no qualification. So the initial 80-man field had 0 qualifications. They were just handpicked by the tournament organizations to fish that circuit. Therefore, there's no legitimacy behind those picks. With the Bassmaster Elite Series tournament, you've got people that are grandfathered in there through Legends exemptions. You got people that have been grandfathered in there, like myself. I got an Elite Series invitation in 2005 and I turned it down. A lot of guys took theirs and they're still in there. You've got a lot of guys that fish 3 Bassmaster Opens and just happened to put together 3 good tournaments, 3 or 4 good tournaments, depending upon the format, and they qualified for the Elite Series tournament. So from that standpoint, you cannot say that a lot of these anglers they've earned their way through the format, but when it comes to saying that these are the cream of the crop and the top and the best anglers out there, it just ain't true. Guys, here's one example you look at. Now, let's take, for example, the Bassmaster Elite Series tournament. There's quite a few pros that used to fish some of like they go into the Bassmaster. Another thing about the Bassmaster Opens, they pay 40 places and there could be over 200 people there too. But if you've ever noticed, there's a lot of Bass Pro Tour guys and some Bassmaster Elite Series guys that occasionally jump into a Bassmaster Open or a Toyota Series tournament, or even a BFL. Go through and look at the list, how well they do. Most of them are down there at the middle of the pack or at the bottom of the pack because they get watered down in a big field. It's so easy for them to stand out in a small field of, the way they've got those tournaments structured out there, and it makes them seem like they're hammers when they're not. Now, I'm not saying they're not good anglers, because they are, but what I'm saying is they're no better than the Bassmaster Open guys, the Toyota Series guys, or the BFL guys. I know, guys, I've been there. I've qualified for the BFL All-American. I've qualified for all the Toyota Series championships. I've qualified for 18 Bassmaster Classics and Forest Wood Cups. I know the competition. I've been there. I know how good the competition is at any level, and there's no daylight between it. There used to be. 30 years ago, there was daylight between the competition, but now, since everybody is so easily educated and the learning curve has been shortened so much through things like YouTube and social media, there's no daylight. So the point of what I wanted to make here, without getting off in left field, there's 2 points here. Number one, Matt made a great point in the video, basically saying that most of these guys out there, if it was the major leagues, they'd never make it, simply because they're a one-dimensional ball player. Yet Bassmaster and MLF have created a format where they let the one-dimensional player dominate, and that's not the way professional sports should be. Professional sports should be the cream of the crop, the best of the best. You should be able to have to do everything. It's like, in a perfect world, without spotlighting for Bassmaster and MLF would set up a schedule that demanded you be good at every technique. It would demand that you be good at smallmouth fishing. It would demand that you'd be good at power fishing in muddy water. It would demand that you be able to do every single technique out there to prove that you're truly a professional angler. But what we have now is, since Bassmaster and MLF have completely, turned bass fishing into staring at people's backs with forward-facing minnow looking at a video game screen, people don't have to be versatile. They don't have to be multi-dimensional as an angler. They can be one-dimensional, and what that does is that diminishes the sport. It diminishes what a professional angler is. So on top of the fact that the competition is easy, we've got a bunch of one-dimensional anglers out there, it's no reason that bass fishing has not transcended to being truly a professional sport in this country. And with as many participants as we have in the sport of bass fishing, and as much money is spent in the fishing industry, professional bass fishing ought to be right up there with pro football and baseball, but it's not, because the organizations have held it back. They have held it back by doing things just like what I have explained here. They've undermined the credibility of the anglers. They have not set, formats. They have not followed the guidelines to set a baseline on what a professional is. And what this does actually out there, it creates this illusion to the sponsors, to the fishing industry, to the public, that the best anglers are competing on the top level, and they're not. So anyway, guys, that's just my opinion on it. I'd be curious. Let me know what you guys think. I'd really be curious to know, your opinion on it. You may not have considered some of the stuff that I talked about here, but anyway, just wanted to pass that along, and hope you guys are well. We'll talk later.